6 months after I had to be done.
Yeah, I understand. All right, we are live. I am going to share this. Is it there? Oh, I'm gonna share this real quick as soon as I find it on our page. There it is. Hmm, okay, and then I'll just have a few people that I need to tag, and once that is done and all accepted, we will start. Let me just make sure that I have the notifications sent up. And turn my volume down. All right, and you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we are ready to go. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Natural Weed Community Hour of Power. This is Akua TJ Robinson. We are very, very excited for this hour of power. I will introduce Dr. Plair, our guest, in one moment. But first, we are just going to take a minute and just ground ourselves and just completely be. So wherever you are sitting, watching this, listening to this, go ahead and just find yourself in a comfortable position. You can close your eyes, you can keep them open, whatever is most comfortable for you. And just take a breath out and take a breath in and take a breath out and take a breath in. And just continue with that breathing as you continue to breathe out and continue to breathe in. Just invite you to listen to the sound of my voice as you are continuing to breathe. Just give yourself a reminder that you are alive. Um, give yourself a reminder that you are uniquely made. There is no one else on this earth that is like you, that you have been created with intention and you are free to be fully, authentically you. And as you continue to breathe, as you breathe out, imagine yourself breathing out any anxiety and breathing in peace. Imagine breathing out doubt and breathing in confidence. With every breath that is going out, you are releasing negativity from your mind, your body, your spirit. And with every breath in, you are allowing love and joy and light to flow through you. And in a time where it seems like so much is going on, just remember that you are present, that you are alive, and that you are more than well, that you have a purpose, that there is a purpose in you, that you have passions, goals, and dreams, and they can be fully realized. You stand on the prayers, on the nurturing, on the love, on the fight of your elders and your ancestors. There are people around you who support you and love you. And we love ourselves fiercely. We love ourselves fiercely. And whenever you are ready, go ahead and open your eyes and regroup. This is Naturally Community Hour of Power. We are so excited. Again, I am TJ Robinson. And just a couple quick announcements. First of all, I want to thank Pastor Coleman of Crossroads Ministries. The food banks have been going very well at Spirit of Truth, Friendly Friendship, and New Providence Baptist Church. We also thank Brother Mitch, our delivery driver, and all of the volunteers at our locations. We greatly, greatly appreciate you. You can see our social media pages to know when the food banks are, but there is plenty of food. If you know someone who is hungry, anything like that, please invite them to get just beautiful, fresh, organic, good quality food from our food bank. Zoom tutoring is still going strong. If you know anyone who is in need of assistance in math, science, English writing, resume writing, we even have African storytelling hour. They can contact us at naturalwecommunity@gmail.com, and I will make sure that that information is in the chat. And with that, I am excited to introduce our guest for the evening. Dr. Plair has had a long-standing 32-year career in LASD law enforcement before officially retiring in March of 2021. He has been included in establishing community outreach programs, training and education, public information, and being a longtime crisis negotiator. He is also a former Marine infantry officer. He retired as a colonel, having worked a multitude of tactical, operational, and staff assignments. Currently, he works for the Department of Justice Community Relations Service as a regional director responsible for the Western, Pacific, Northwest, and Rocky Mountain regions. He also is an avid believer in seeking professional growth. Mr. Plair earned his Bachelor's of Business Administration from University of Houston, a Master of Business from National University, and most recently, a Doctorate of Education in Organizational Leadership from Bradman University. His research interests include leadership, social media and branding, and social justice. And his doctoral dissertation is titled A Qualitative Study to Describe Behaviors that exemplary municipal police chiefs and sheriffs practice to lead their organizations through conversation. For the past 10 years, he has been an adjunct professor at Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, Go Toros, and El Camino College teaching administration of justice courses. Dr. Plair is extremely passionate about teaching and has mentored countless college students, many of which have gone on to pursue higher education and are working with various community-based organizations, law enforcement, and military services. He is an avid fitness junkie, enjoys living a healthy lifestyle mindset, and inspiring others, teaching group fitness classes at local gyms, and certified in multiple high-intensity interval training, cycle, weightlifting, and stretch classes. And his personal mantra is know thyself and seek self-improvement. And with that, welcome, Dr. Plair. We appreciate you. I will let you introduce yourself in your own way.
Wow, it's really amazing hearing your bio. It's one thing to write it, but to have somebody say it makes you feel good. I'm excited about being here. My name is Vincent Plair, and as was alluded to, I currently work for the Department of Justice, had a long career in the military and a long career with LASD. And again, I'm excited to be here to talk and discuss and chop things up. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to just we're both educators, so just quickly, how has your background helped you in terms of the classroom during COVID?
It's for me, and I say this quite a bit. I go through my daily stressors in life. When I was working in law enforcement, that obviously was a stressor, especially with things that are going on now. I have a family. A certain degree of stressors going on there. But for me, that classroom environment was a release for me. And I say that because we all have our platforms that we use to push out information, especially now in this time during COVID. There's a need for release of stress and gaining knowledge in a different format. So for me, educating in the method that I educate people, the way that I engage students, for me, helped me kind of relieve a lot of the stressor that I have going on in my life, because I see myself as a mentor first, high on my priority list. I'm a mentor. I enjoy that interaction with students. I enjoy imparting what I know. And I say to my classes is my goal this semester is to impart as much as I can to you to help you further your life. It's not so much about the book stuff, but I want to empower you to seek, make better choices, to seek higher education, to seek a gainful employment. And so that's why I absolutely love that environment of teaching.
That's great. So when you are teaching and imparting, how are the students responding?
I tell a lot of stories. At the end of the semester, you always get your feedback from students at Cal State Dominguez. As you probably know, you have a chance to do perceived teacher evaluations, and
Mhm.
students kind of rate you and they tell you about what they like, what they don't like. And resoundingly, what they enjoyed was the power of storytelling. And there's a lot of it's very powerful when you can tell stories that relate to a concept in a book, and you can teach in a way that they understand by the stories you tell. So that's one of the methods that I use to kind of engage students. They like the stories. The book is one thing, and I always kind of tell myself, I want to be that instructor that make that book come alive. I want to tell the stories that aren't really being told in these textbooks that we get, that are written, and a lot of them not by people that look like us. So I want to tell, and I'm very real with my students. This is how law enforcement sees it. This is how the community may see it. But you as students, you have to decide for yourself. A term that I use is you have to peel the onion, okay? A concept is one thing, your thoughts are one thing, but go deeper than that, okay? What are both sides of the argument saying? Then formulate your own opinion. It's one thing, and you read in a lot of student writings, they give a lot of opinions, but they're not based in the other side of the story. They're not based in research. I try to engage them in a manner where I want them to seek not so much the truth, but other aspects of the truth, because there's many facets to what the truth is. There's different opinions, and you form your own opinion by educating yourself. That way you can be part of that conversation, especially now in law enforcement, the things that are going on. If you truly want to be part of that conversation, you have to know both sides of the argument, not just your single story.
I think it's important to really engage and look at the historical context and um, being able to, and not just the historical context of what has been given one-sided in terms of how uh, education systems have been in terms of just going on a Eurocentric part of history, but also being able to center the experiences of the people and being able to really interrogate the text as it relates to the classroom. So I can imagine with that some mediation skills have to come in place periodically and play in terms of if it's a heated discussion, different points of view and perspective. So how do you navigate that?
I love, and I think, again, one of the things that comes out of my uh, evaluations is the fact that I make students argue in a constructive way. I do a lot of debating in class where they have to present both sides. Now, purposely, after you get a chance to know the students, you kind of know where they fall on the spectrum. So you have them present another argument that they're not comfortable discussing. So it forces them out of their shell, and it forces them to learn another different perspective. So that's a method I've used to kind of navigate that one-sidedness in the classroom. And at times things get kind of heated because people can be very opinionated about stuff, but then you have to set ground rules. We're in this spirit of learning. This is a safe space. What says here stays here unless it gets just truly out of hand. And we have to kind of honor that agreement that we make in class. Like usually day one, I'll talk about this is our safe space. These are our ground rules for class. These are our ground rules when we debate. I'm going to make you uncomfortable. That's my job. My job is to make you see the other perspective. My job is to teach you things that are in the book and get you to see different sides of the fence and different perspectives. So sometimes students enjoy that, and there's also students that just don't want to buy into that, because they're so stuck in their single story. But they're going to get the other side from me. When they walk out of the class at the end of the semester, I can't force you to think another way, but I can present the material in a way that you're at least going to hear it.
Mhm. I'm smiling. I'm remembering one time I was in a class and we had to do a group debate, and um, I don't even remember who the other people were in terms of who we were debating. We had to assume a character. I only remember that I had to argue Booker T. Washington, I think it was. And I was like, I don't want to argue Booker T. Washington. I wanted to be on Garvey, I think it was. I wanted to assume Garvey. Um, but I remember the instructor at the time making me do Booker T. Washington actually made a lot of sense in hindsight, because of how much I was able to learn and how much I was able to then, and not only learn about Washington, but then I even learned more about Garvey, because here I am having to kind of win against Garvey, even though I was for Garvey. So that really makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great strategy for learning.
I'll tell a quick story. So again, one of the topics of debate, especially in law enforcement circles, is Black Lives Matter. Uh, and if you talk to certain students, they're very much believe in the organization. You talk to other students, and they say they're not really feeling the organization, so to speak. So again, in the spirit of learning, because I wanted them to know about the organization, those that didn't know about the organization, is again have the debates centered around that topic. Okay, those that were like anti BLM, have them present, have them do research on the organization, present from a standpoint that you agree with what they're saying. At least that way they get to know something about the organization. And sometimes amongst law enforcement circles, and I had to kind of force myself to do the same thing. I'm just going to be transparent here. Is you hear sometimes in law enforcement negative things about the organization, but then when you start to do your research and start to peel the onion, you realize how they got started, their intent and goals. And if you think about it, a lot of what they're trying to achieve somewhat aligns with some of the things that law enforcement wants to do. So there is some commonality between the organizations, although the two might not necessarily get along in some circles, but at least you walk out of my classroom knowing both sides of the argument, which sometimes in law enforcement we fail to see that. We fail to see the other side of the organization just because we're hearing all this negative rhetoric. But again, I like to dig deep, not that it was a popular thing for me to do when I was working in law enforcement, but I wanted to know, I wanted to know the other side. So when I stepped into a classroom, I wasn't teaching from a single perspective. And I've done that before early on my teaching career. I've taught from a strictly law enforcement perspective, and I had to force myself out of that box. So, as people, we evolve. The more knowledge we get, even as instructors, we evolve as instructors also. So, teaching for me, it's a learning. I learn just as much from my students as I do, hopefully, them from me.
Mhm. And it's important to remember that even in that instructor student space, we can learn from each other. My
Exactly.
students teach me um, often, and the importance of really making sure that the full truth is told, and that we especially hold those who are fighting for the liberation of our people are able to really shine light on that, and understand the platform, and understand even some of the risks that they take, and really fully making sure that they're able to tell the truth and really go hard for Black lives, and how much it is important and how much it matters. And I can't even imagine being in law enforcement where that has been um, anti and making sure that you speak that truth to power, that Black Lives Matter is important. So thank you for that. Um, Absolutely, thank you for that. Um, so I want to, how do you feel as an instructor, as a mediator, how do you feel you are empowering and healing and progressing Black people?
It's again, one of my goals when I start teaching again was the mentorship aspect of teaching and getting students to see different perspectives. What I particularly like about teaching at Dominguez is it has this title of serving a lot of folks in underserved communities, so to speak. So I see a lot of me in them because the same struggles they're going through now, I went through. I didn't grow up with a doctor in front of my name. I grew up in a single parent household, and there's a time in my life when we were on public assistance. So I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to maybe not have the best or healthiest meals because I've lived that life. So I can use that to empower students to tell my stories, to uplift, African Americans, because they see me, I think, and say, hey, they see how driven I am about, again, the hustle is real. I tell them, nothing's guaranteed. You have to create, as African Americans, your own opportunities because, when I walk out this door, when I get in my car, no one sees that I work for the sheriff's department. No one sees that I have a doctorate degree. They just see the color of my skin. And I'm subject to the same scrutiny you are as students because I've been there. I've been stopped as a former law enforcement officer by folks at a station that I used to work with. So that's powerful for me to share that story with students, but I also tell them how they can overcome some of the things they're going through. If you trust the process, trust in your education, stay humble on truly who you are, you'll build your resume, build your skill sets, that success that you dream about, that you talk about, you'll get. The road may be a little tougher, but again, the hustle is real. You have to make it happen. No one's going to give it to you.
And I think one of the things is that is really helpful when educators tell the story and show and everything is hopefully it inspires and it encourages and it gives some hope. It's really easy to become apathetic or even become like just why especially when we see what we're dealing with in the midst of a trial. We have two more killings like and just census. So being able to continue to instill hope, to continue to instill encouragement and motivate is crucial, and it's so important that we as a people do not lose faith, that we do not lose hope, and that we keep going at it and we keep going and keep going at it. So I think that's great. That's
I'll
great.
kind of add on to that. Is for young folks that are listening, it's important for you, like you're saying, not to lose hope. And I can't really imagine what it's like being a 14, 15, 20-year-old living in today's environment with the image you see, what's going on around the nation. That's why it's important for you to surround yourself with folks that can be that ear for you to give you that solid advice. What I find, I don't say it's troubling, but a concern of mine is that students aren't utilizing resources like they could. They could do a better job of utilizing resources, using your professors. There's many like me. I have students to this day that I still keep in contact with. Black, brown, that I still keep in contact with. They seek my advice. They'll text me, they'll email me for advice. So that's my purpose. That's should be everybody that's trying to in the game of helping people. That should be your purpose. I was that student, and I don't want to be that person when my life is over not to be able to say that I didn't use my platform, whatever it is, to try to help people. That's why we're here on this earth. Okay.
Mhm.
We're not here to be selfish. We're here to empower people to do better. I want my students, to be better than I am.
Mhm.
They're the next leaders in law enforcement. They're the next doctors. They're the next, whatever it is that they aspire to be. But you have to use your resources. They're out there. Again, you sometimes you have to go seek them. Ask. Is what the old folks used to say, and I hate to say I'm part of the old folks now, is a closed mouth don't get fed.
You're fed.
So a closed mouth definitely does not get fed.
Right, and hope, and we as educators continue to position ourselves to be able to reach students, because it is both, and be able to meet each other. But for those students who are listening, Dr. Plair is here, right? Professor DJ is here, and being able to really be community, and be community oriented and community mindset, so that in those days when we continue to improve generation after generation after generation, and when that fully free freedom and liberation is here, we are able to really create those spaces that we seek to create, and really are able to um, love on one another, and but it starts with continuing to love on each other even now in this environment, and where we are now, so that that love is continuous and it's always continuing and going from there. So um I'm going to transition just a little bit. You in your bio say that you are a fitness junkie. And I love working out. My friends will tell you that they know not to call me during my workout times because I won't even hear the
That's
phone.
right. Don't be
So,
killing me.
right, it's just I love it. So, if you could just talk about how, especially as a Black man, taking care of yourself health wise, how that impacts your overall quality of life.
But just if you just look at it from a purely academic standpoint, is you look at the statistics about African Americans, males and females, and obesity rates and diet. That if of itself, if you ever do any research, is shocking. We have to do better as people and taking care of ourselves. And for me, my journey started, luckily with I've always been kind of an active person. I never thought at my age, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, that I'd be this active. I'm probably in better shape now than I was when I was like 20, 25, just because I'm getting older, and I know that in order for me to keep the stamina level that I have now, I have to exercise. Plus, talk about stress relief. Okay, that is my stress reliever. If I didn't teach, if I didn't work out the way I worked out, I would not be a good person to live with. And if you can ask my wife that. Okay, if I don't work out more than like 3 days, haven't worked out, I am definitely not the same person. So on that, that's some of the reasons why I work out. But I kind of got bitten with the teaching aspect. Is I had an injury when I was working for the sheriff's department. I had a knee injury, and I was recuperating, and I couldn't run anymore because I was a pretty avid runner. Not anymore because again I'm getting older. Uh, so I would start to go to like cycle classes at a local gym, and I'm a competitive person. I'm a former Marine. I'm kind of built like that. I have the A+ personality sometimes. And I would go to these classes and go, I could do a better job of teaching this class. This person didn't, I didn't really sweat that much. Okay. If I ever became instructor, this is what I would do. So I became that instructor. So I'm that person now in class, just like I am in the classroom at, let's say, Cal State Dominguez, is that pushes you hard. Because, I figure you came here, you signed up for a membership, you came to this class because you want to work hard. So I'm kind of that instructor. And I've kind of built upon that with different formats to teach. I teach cycle, which is my first love because it's the first format that I got certified in. I teach a class called Body Pump. It's a cardio weightlifting class. I do a lot of high intensity stuff. Even my private workouts are usually like high intensity, short high intensity. That's the best way to kind of get a good workout in and not stay too long in the gym. Just kind of do very high intensity workouts, kind of get in, get out. Then a couple with that, you have to kind of change your diet too. Again, going back to statistics, what do we as people like to eat a lot of times? We eat a lot of fried foods. We love certain foods. I'm not going to say certain foods, but I think you all know what I'm talking about. And some of those foods can be prepared a little differently and still get the kind of same flavor. My spouse, and I'm not, she's vegan. So by default, I kind of have to eat some of the food she eats, else I'm not going to eat. So I've kind of adopted some of that in my diet regime because she's takes it over the top. She's a pure vegan, but I have to have some meat. I try not to eat fried food. Every now and then you have those cheat days where you just want that In-N-Out burger, but I try to shy away from that stuff. But the whole premise behind staying healthy is I want to live a long time. I'm retired now, and I'll tell you a story. Like my friend says, he says, when the postman comes to my house, I want him to have a crick in his back from carrying all my retirement checks. So I live long enough to, I'm retired from the sheriff's department, retired from the Marine Corps, working on my third, so to speak, retirement. So I want to live a long, healthy life so I can enjoy the fruits of my labor. So that in of itself should be reason enough to stay healthy, because you hear about, especially in my former career, law enforcement, folks retire and within 3 to 5 years, they're dead. I don't want that to happen to me. I want to break the county bank, and that's why I want to live a healthy lifestyle. Plus, my family. I want to encourage my family to lead the kind of same lifestyle as well. So that's why it's important. So we as a race, we need to pay attention to our overall health. And part of that health also is like, I love the affirmation you did when we started, the breathing and grounding yourself. I do that every morning. That's where I center myself to start my day. If I don't do that, my day is not the same. Okay. Very powerful, quick things that you can do to kind of get yourself grounded in good headspace for your day, which is going to be hectic. Like me, my life's hectic, jobs on jobs, my teaching stuff, family, wife. By the time my head hits the pillow at night, I'm worn out. Then in the morning, got to do it all over again. And you got to have energy to do that.
And one of the things I was smiling when you mentioned that your wife is vegan and you are not. In my workout crew, there's a few who are 100% vegan, and then there's TJ who's like 75%. I really like crab, um, and I really enjoy making gumbo and crab boils. But even with just the 75%, right, you can see a
Oh yeah.
big difference in how important it is to really think about this. We only have one body, we have one physical body, and the quality of life that we would like to have, and being able to use working out, being able to use eating well to also see how it impacts our mental health and our emotional health. I completely resonated with you and you was like, there's a difference when I haven't worked out in about 2 3 days. There really is a difference sometimes, being able to really exert all your energy and being able to sometimes that 1 hour, that 30 minutes of a high intense workout is what you needed to be able to calm down and think about a situation in a both balanced emotional and rational way to be able to assess and move forward and make decisions. And with the way that we eat and how the nutrients are able to balance chemicals in our brain and things like that, it is especially important now. It is especially important that we take care of ourselves, as we come out, as the world opens back up, for lack of better words, as we see the images on the TV screen and things like that, how important it is that we are taking care of ourselves in a full, whole, holistic way and going from there. How have your classes responded to your work hard and make sure that you sweat?
Well, a number of them think that I don't say crazy, but they don't they don't quite grasp how I can do all the things that I do. You know, I've heard everything from like you're crazy, Dr. Plair, to like you're an inspiration. And I get on them like, okay, you got a part-time job, but you can't get your work in on time. Okay. And I got a full-time job, family, teaching jobs. I'm doing all these extra things, you know, and I'm making it happen. I'm here every day. The classes are stimulating, but you can't do these small things that I ask you to do. So again, I try to drive those points home about like, okay, the hustle is real. Okay. If you are going to do things kind of halfway about it, that's when you leave the institution walls, you're still going to carry those same work habits into a workplace. So you have to develop those qualities and those that work ethic right here, right now. Treat school as this is your job. Okay, you're being rated in class by me, just like you can be rated by an employer once you go to the workforce. And if I ask you, what do you want to do later in your life, and do you want to get good evaluations? Do you want to progress in your career? And all of a sudden say, yeah, I do. But you can't turn in assignments. I'm here to help you, to guide you along the way, but you have to trust in that process. Trust the stuff that I'm saying and my lifestyle. This all transcends to here and now and later when you leave the walls of this institution. I want you to reflect back on these conversations I'm having now and say, man, now I see what Dr. Plair was talking about.
Mhm.
This stuff is making sense now. Now I realize that I got to do better. I got to work out. I have to do, get to work on time. I have to do certain things to be successful in life. But all that starts, while you're in college. It should start before that, but college is a time. At least for me, it was a time for me to kind of find myself. I wasn't the best student in the world. Kind of found myself after, just like a lot of students are. But those principles and those ideals need to be reinforced a lot with students sometimes, especially nowadays, I think.
Yeah, one of those things is in terms of finding balance, when to, whether you're, you know, teaching in the cycle class, whether teaching in the classroom, being able to hold space, support students, and understand when they're trying to figure things out, while also pushing and challenging to raise the bar at the same time. I used to play basketball and run track. So a lot of times when I'm talking to my students, I say, look, when you walk into my classroom, maybe you're on the JV level, but it's my job to get you
Mhm.
to varsity level. You are going to be ready for varsity once you end my class. And so, what does that look like mentally, emotionally, and physically? And so, being able to have those conversations about not only, okay, this is how you backwards plan, this is how you write in a planner and organize your day hour by hour so that you can finish the assignments and you can see, oh, Professor TJ, Dr. Player, you guys have 50 million things going on. This is how we organize life, while also creating that mind space of, yes, I can do this. I'm going to do it, and when to prioritize and when not to, and going through that, and understanding there's going to be trial and error. Like it didn't just happen overnight, but allowing yourself and giving yourself that space to go to that level and reaching towards it, and going from there, which I think is important in all aspects of life, in how we navigate life.
Yeah, one thing that I do, again, another story, because I like telling stories, is COVID. Again, it definitely has impacted students' lives. It's impacted how they learn, and
Mhm.
a lot of students, and you probably heard this. I don't feel the same connection to school, the same connection to my professors that I used to, and I kind of miss that. So,
Mhm.
and I thought about that when a student told me that. I thought, how can I connect? It's not going to be the same, but how can I connect with my students on a different level in a online environment? So one of the things I like to do, and I find them very powerful, which kind of goes to back when we started our talk today, is a check-in. You know,
Mhm.
and this is our space. You know, we do a little affirmation. Everybody's quiet. Now we're going to check in with everybody. Who feels comfortable sharing about their lives? And those can be very powerful. And some of the things they tell me, like, wow, okay, you know, I have everything from, you know, um, I had COVID a couple of weeks ago. I don't want to say anything, but I feel better now. To, you know, I lost my job. I pay certain bills in the household. I'm feeling a little stressed about that. So again, for me, it's very powerful. It helps me realize that, you know, these are real people with real problems. This is why I like teaching at Dominguez versus maybe like a different type of school, because these students have real problems and they need that nurturing. I try to do that about 3, 4 times a semester when we do our online Zoom sessions, and I found them to be very powerful, and it helps me connect a little more with students. In addition to the regular stuff you do, like email check-ins or you Zoom office hours, but that to me, I found it to be extremely beneficial. And I'm looking for different other ways to further connect with my students, maybe in a group setting, you know, maybe next semester. But I want to find ways to connect with them. One of the things I tell them from the onset of the semester is, yes, I'm here to grade you. Yes, you're going to get grade. Yes, I'm your professor, but I'm more concerned about you as students than I am about your learning. Okay. I
Mhm.
want you to be well. I want you to have a good headspace so you can get through this semester and get on with the rest of your life after the semester. Because that's important for me. I want to connect with my students. That's powerful.
Right. I think that, and it's so important. When I first started teaching, I adopted a teaching philosophy from um, Asa Hilliard about to be an African teacher and about reaching to the student spirit and reaching to their
Mhm.
soul and bringing in that humanity aspect of it. And one of the things that I have found extremely helpful is I'll ask them what music they're listening to, and and it's real fun. And when they start talking about, oh well, have you listened to this one, and then they go back to listen to this one. And especially my students are hilarious because so my students know that we will talk about Coltrane, Bessie Smith, and Billie Holiday, but then I might switch it up, and the next day we'll talk about 3 6 Mafia, DMX. Just we just go all over the place. But one time they were like, well, who was on your playlist today, Professor? And so they're ready to guess. They're like, was it Tasha Cobbs? Was it who? And I was like, nah, guys, it was Leanne Rhymes and Keith Urban. And they didn't know what to do. They were like, wait a minute. I was like, yes, I will play Shania Twain. All right. It's gonna be okay. But that turns into the next thing I know, they're trying to create a whole entire playlist. And or I'm getting emails like, okay, Professor TJ, I just dropped this song on Spotify. You gonna listen to my song? Send me the link. I'm gonna listen to your song. And that has been kind of break up the monotony. So
Right.
yes, we learn. Yes, we learn, but I haven't forgotten that we are all human. And you all are not gonna forget that I am human. Or some days instead of just the how are you all doing, it's okay, describe yourself as the weather. Are you partly cloudy? Are you a hurricane? Are you a tsunami? Are you slightly breezy, no clouds in the sky? Like what? And that has been very, very interesting to see. And I have a few students, my students know to turn their cameras on. My students already know that you can put on a virtual background. Mine's the ocean, but I need to see your face. If you want me to be a good instructor, then I need to see your face. And we do that, but then they still utilize the chat. And so sometimes I'll start talking whatever I see in the chat. I'm like, oh, somebody said that they feel minty or something like that. And then others will chime in the chat. And then finally I'm like, okay, guys, I read the chat for 5 minutes. Y'all gonna talk. And being able to go from there and things it's been actually pretty rewarding going from as a way to really engage the students in this time.
Yeah, I think they're getting better now at of dealing with this online environment. I know at first it was quite challenging, especially because I teach at a 2-year school also. And you have a lot of like 18, 17, 18-year-old students that they just weren't feeling it. And you just kind of had to really stay on them to do work, you know.
It's an
Uh,
adjustment. It
it's
was an
an adjustment.
adjustment. We all had to adjust.
And even as instructors, it's although I like teaching from the confines of my home, I find it probably a little more difficult to teach online, uh, just because you have to send out constant. At least I have to seem like I send out constant reminders about stuff. I can put it in, whatever learning platform we're using, but you have to remind them. And then when you don't remind them, oh, professor, you didn't remind us. Like, okay, I don't know. That was like I had to do that, but
Yes, the joys of teaching.
yeah, exactly. Enjoy the teaching.
That's right. But you know, I think I think many have risen to the challenge and going from there. And so it'll be interesting to see what this next level goes and how they go and figuring out how they do it. I one time I was talking to my students and like, yeah, so in our group chat, we were discussing. I said, wait, what group chat are you all talking about? They're like, we created a group chat without you, professor. I said, no, whatever works. Whatever works. Well, it sounds like you remind students more than I do. I told them to refer to the course schedule. So they were like, yeah, you don't remind us. So we had to figure out how to help each other remember the assignments. I said, you know what? That is great. I love the thinking, the initiative and the innovation. And it's been interesting to see them once the sharing happens, once that
Mhm.
community happens. One time I hopped in online and they were having a discussion about herbs and they were trading smoothie recipes with each other. And I was like, what are you guys doing? It's like, well, you told us to be healthy, so we're trying. I say, no, have at it. Have at it. Finish your conversation. We will start the lesson in 5 minutes and go from there. So um, it's good. It's good.
One thing I do to kind of create that community within like students is early on in the semester, I break them down into learning teams, and I tell them that that is your inter-class community. So you need to rely on each other to do things because it's usually like a group project they have to do in my classes. And if first they kind of balk about doing it because they don't want to work in a group. This is COVID. We can't do it. We don't see each other. Well, that's that I'm not really feeling that excuse, but we're going to do it my way because trust me, at the end of the semester, when you do this project and you do it well, you're going to be so glad you did it. And going back to what we were talking about earlier about resources, like we did a practice semester in one of the classes I'm teaching about like community resources between like within an area. So they had to pick an area, uh, whatever area they felt were community for that group. So they chose different parts of LA County, some Orange County, and they had to pick a geographical area and do their project based on what resources are available in that area that are somehow linked to law enforcement to get them to see that, you know, law enforcement is linked to communities, maybe not as well as we should sometimes. And there's a lot of resources that members of the community don't even know about. Because again, I tell them that, you have to take advantage of all of these resources. So now that you know this and you do this project, is you need to preach what you learned. Okay. Use your platform that you learn in class to spread this word to other people. Because somebody in that community that you may know probably doesn't know about this resource that you found out by doing this project.
Mhm. That's good. Getting them to also then each one teach one, you
Right.
know, and go from there. So that is great. Um, this has been very, very enjoyable.
Cool.
We are starting to wind down. I just looked at the clock. I was like, oh,
Hell
we
yeah. Just, wow. It went quick.
time it went by really fast. But that just means that it has just been fruitful and meaningful and a great conversation. Before we wrap up with closing announcements and things like that. Do you have any last words that you would like to say?
I just want to, for the folks that are out there, is again, I know a lot of things that are going on around the world, and on a lot of people's minds are the George Chauvin trial and the unfortunate, police killing of the young African American male in Minnesota. Uh, is that again, we have to keep our heads up and we have to promote this message of peace. Uh, Unfortunate. I hate that it happened. They both need to, justice needs to be served, but we still need to practice and promote this message of peace in our environments that we participate in. Church, family, community, because us going out and causing harm and tearing up stuff, that's not going to solve anything. I know we're all grieving now, to include myself. It pains me to see that, just like anybody else, even though I worked in law enforcement, but we have to promote this message of peace, and this too, I don't know when, shall pass. And let's pray for uh, community healing, because there's been a lot of trauma inflicted on our communities of color. And let's pray for the reimagining of what policing could be and should be, whatever that is. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Plair. We greatly appreciate it and wish you health, wish you well, that you will be more than well. Um, just some final announcements. This Sunday at New Providence Baptist Church, after morning worship, we will have the food bank. Zoom tutoring is still going on. Please check our social media page for our next community hour of power. We are off next week. We will be back April 29th. Very excited for that. And again, there is Zoom tutoring. Please keep a lookout. We have great things in store as we prepare for May mental health awareness, Juneteenth, and moving forward. And with that, yes, let us continue to seek after our full, complete liberation as we pray. Let us continue to also find our niche of where we can be involved in the revolution that fits our purpose, passions, goals, and dreams. Um, if you need to take a break from watching the trial, take a break. It is important to keep our peace. It is okay to do a social media fast. It is okay to not watch videos of the killings, if that's what you need to do, and instead focus on some Black joy and see some uplifting things as well. But take care of yourself, that we may also pour into one another, and as we find our niche, our role in our own revolution and liberation. And with that, thank you so much for joining Community Hour of Power, and remember that we are more than well. Take care. Bye.
Bye.